Welcome, everyone, to our event, Seeing Opportunities in Devastation Stories to Inspire. I just want to remind the listeners that when we're talking about seeing the opportunities in devastation, we are not saying do not acknowledge that you are in a situation that is maybe not as beneficial on the surface. We're asking you to look deeper than the surface and seek that opportunity, seek that silver lining. And we are continuing today with our Entrepreneurial Excellence series. Last time, we spoke about how to set up a sales friendly company for maximum sales. And it took us through a range of questions that started from uh, does your company always deliver on its promises to how good are you at sales support? And yeah, so today we're waiting for another edition of what Ed is going to take us through, and a special welcome to our mentor guru, Ed Hatton. Over to you, Ed.
Thank you, Jacques. Yeah, you talked about this not being ideal times, and yeah, that's probably right. It's not ideal times, but I picked up a note just in the last couple of days that the world's population is likely to get to 8 billion people in the next week. Now, with a worldwide population of 8 billion and a South African population up at around 60 million, getting fairly close to, for instance, the population of England. Um, we are growing population very rapidly, and growing populations have growing needs. And all you need as an entrepreneur is to understand needs and be able to satisfy them profitably. And you have a business going. People need things and you can supply them, and you can do so affordably for them and profitably for you, then you would find it very difficult to fail. The only way you could then fail is if that group of people didn't know anything about you. But that's simply a communication challenge. Now, as the world's population grows, so its demands for services, food, bedding, housing, transport, schooling, healthcare, security, they all grow exponentially with a growing population. And we have, for a long time, tended to sit back and said, well, that's actually government responsibility. But we've seen fairly clearly in the last 10 or 12 years that the government performs that responsibility relatively badly. And where there have been successes, they've been patchy and localized. Overall, where success comes, it comes from private enterprise. And that's what we're all about as entrepreneurs. So there's always opportunity out there. And it may not be direct opportunity, but for instance, um, as people's needs for transportation grows, so the taxi fleet grows. The taxi fleet itself has needs. It needs filters and tires and oil and fuel and upholstery and panel beating and engine repairs and gearbox repairs and wheel alignment and all of these other services that the taxi fleet needs. So as that grows, so the opportunities for those grow. And as the opportunity for those grow, so does the need for them to have auditors and accountants and lawyers and um, website designers and a whole lot of other things. So if you start looking for where the opportunity lies, and you start looking for the growth industries, and one of the growth industries is population growth, with all that flows from that, then there are liable to be opportunities that you might not see if you're simply concentrating on your own market. But they may be seen by your competitors. And you really don't want that because you don't want your competitors to get very strong in comparison to you. Because if they do that, they will pinch your best sales staff, they will go and attack your prime customers, they will do everything in their power to take over your business without paying for it. And in the last emergency, they may pay for it, but they won't pay top dollar for your business because they will have weakened it quite substantially by then. This is not a happy situation to be in. So you want to be very, very competitive. You want to be the one that's scaring your competitors. So, what I want to talk about, and we touched briefly on competitors last time we spoke, what I wanted to talk about today was to talk about competitors, about competition, and how and why you should be studying your competitors. And the first question is, why bother? They're going to be there. We know them. They're going to do what they can to take market. We're going to do what we can. There's a kind of even balance. Our customers are loyal. Why should we bother to consider what the competitors are doing? Well, the answer to that question goes back to the phrase that I've used so many times before. Why you? Why do your customers buy from you? What have you got that is unique or different or differentiated from your competitors, which persuades them that they should buy from you, not from anywhere else? And an awful lot of customers will be buying from you from inertia. They simply keep buying from you because they've always bought from you. And it's sort of inconvenient to start going to a new supplier. You don't know the people, and their products might be a little different, and you don't know their routines, and you're unsure about their service levels. And so it's just easier all around to stay with you. Now, if you've got customers who are staying with you because of inertia, you are in a very, very high risk situation because at some stage, some competitor is going to come along and make an irresistible offer to that customer, and you have lost them. As soon as the competitor shows that the disadvantages of moving are outweighed by the advantages of what they're going to get from them, then you're history. And you probably won't even know that you are that why you are history. You won't ever know why it is, and you'll get the rumor around that the competitor bribed someone, or one of these horrendous rumors that go around, which sales ladies, people who women who are in sales, will know all about. But instead of doing that, you should be asking yourself, what am I doing to keep my customers? What am I doing to innovate and cost reduce and differentiate from all of my competitors? And in order to do that, you have to know what your competitors do and where they are. So the answer to why bother is very simple. Why bother? Because it might be the survival of your business. And survival of your business is pretty important. If you're studying competitors, you need to know who they are. And surprisingly, a lot of businesses don't know who their competitors are, or if they do know who their competitors are, do not recognize their power. They simply believe that there are some competitors out there, but they are better than the competitors. And they must be better than the competitors because customers are buying from them. This is very risky logic. There may well be competitors out there that are 10 times the size of you and you're not recognizing them. And they may be growing faster than you, and they may be innovating faster than you, and you're not recognizing them. So, first step up is look around at the direct competitors. How do you do that? Well, an industry association would be a great way to start. If there's one in your industry, and for instance, in the coaching and mentoring industry, there's a great association where people do share what they're doing and what their differential is, and often share how to do that. Um, and This will give you a great idea of where the standard is among your competitors. So, an industry association, if you're not a member of it, join it and become active in the association because you will gain vital competitive information there. The second way to do it is to look at things like expositions um, and road shows and all of those kind of areas along the line, um, where you can go and see what people are highlighting in their business. You can get documentation. You can see just from their signage what they regard as their most important areas of selling ability. You can refer to industry gurus. Now, industry gurus might be media commentators, they might be the association leaders, the sort of people who really understand that industry, people who might be studying it. There are often um, dissertations or reports on industries within the universities. So a little bit of trolling with a tool like Google will often spring reports, surprisingly illuminating reports about what is happening in a particular industry and where that industry may be expected to uh, go to in the next couple of years. There's lots and lots of opportunities of finding out who your competitors are and just simply going on their websites and their profiles on social media pages like LinkedIn and Facebook uh, will give you a massive information about them. Now, don't do this just as idle curiosity. Have a look at it, pick out what they are selling as their advantage. Think about how you can counter that or even better that, and then put plans into action to do it. Studying competitors can be an exercise in futility if you're studying competitors simply to prove to yourself that you're better than them, because you can prove that to yourself fairly easily. Don't bother then, just tell yourself that you're better than everybody else and just carry on in your own sweet way and hope that other people who've listened to this talk aren't on your timeline, on your competitive line. But if you study, and studying competitors can be very dispiriting. It can be an exercise that gives you a horrible feeling in the pit of your stomach that you've fallen far behind, and these wonderful people are way ahead of what you're doing. Remember, you have the inside knowledge of what you do badly, and they are not showing what they do badly. So do take boasts on social media and similar with a little bit of a pinch of salt, but not too much. Once you've assembled what the competitors, the direct competitors, are doing, put together a map, a strengths and weaknesses map or a perception map, which says how are you doing in comparison to them. A perception map would be typically a 2 or 3 axis map, just a simple 4 squares, and the axis would depend on your industry. So one of the axes might be um, the price or the cost effectiveness. The other axis might be performance or size, or you might have a couple of these maps. So relative size, performance, all sorts of things. There are some very sophisticated tools of competitive mapping, and I'm not going to go into any of those here, but you could easily download a number of those from the internet and use them to give you a picture of where a realistic picture, don't fool yourself, of where you are in comparison to your competitors. Once you have that, Start making the call. What do you want to do? Do you want to move from where you are? Do you want to displace someone who's at the top of the tree? Do you want to hide away in a corner? Because that's not a bad way of marketing, is guerrilla marketing, where what you do is really, really good, but nobody knows about it um, until they suddenly find that their biggest clients have just been wiped out and their best salespeople have moved and some of their best technology has been bettered. So you can choose. Then put together strategic plans to do that. But you can't do any of that unless you've got the basic information of where you stand vis-a-vis your competitors. And competitors aren't just the most direct people, the most direct competitors. A long time ago, Professor Michael Porter produced a model called Porter's Five Forces, and you can look this up very easily on the internet. Professor Porter, Michael Porter, said that there really are five types of competitors. There are your direct competitors, the people who sell similar or the same goods to you into the same markets that you sell into. Those are the ones we've been talking about up till now. But there are four others. And the first of those is the power of the buyers. So, in many markets, the buyers are all powerful. They will tell you when and how you can sell to them. So, if you try and sell to a very large corporate, you will be asked to sign an agreement which often would give you nightmares. Um, they will tell you exactly when you have to deliver, how you have to deliver, how you have to package your goods, what um, services you are required to go towards that. They will often restrict your price as well. They might even tell you what you're allowed to charge. This is particularly true if you're in large industrial corporates or mining or construction, and also if you're selling to retailers. If you're selling to retailers, you will get huge restrictions on what you're allowed to sell there and when you're allowed to sell and at what price you're allowed to sell. So buyers in those sort of markets are ultimately your competitors. How do you get around this? Well, maybe you want to spread your risk a little, not deal only with very large corporates, but spread out into the medium and small business sectors where there's a lot more flexibility. Maybe if you're selling to big retailers, you also might want to go and sell to some of the smaller retailers, so long as you're allowed to do that, because the large retailer will often restrict who else you can sell to as well. So be very careful. We love to go after these very big contracts, but sometimes the power of the buyer as a competitor can be onerous and might, in fact, make the whole idea of selling to them not very attractive at all. The second of the third of the five forces is the power of suppliers. Now, if you're in a market like a franchise, you run a franchise, or if you're in a market like um, selling certain technologies like cell phones, you will know all about that. The supplier dictates what products you may carry, what products you may not carry, how you need to advertise, where you need to advertise, how much money you need to spend on advertising, and generally speaking, although it's not allowed, what price you're allowed to sell at, even though that's a no in terms of the Competitions Act. But they'll also tell you what sort of clothing your staff have to wear and all sorts of other issues like that. So the trading conditions become quite onerous because of the power of the supplier, who can dictate to you how you have to run your business. The fourth, competitive force is the force of new entrants. Now that has become more of a standard now than something extraordinary, which was it probably was when Porter developed this model in the 1970s, 50 years ago. Nowadays, entrants pop up every day, sometimes every hour in some instances, and it's very very difficult to keep control of that, to keep tabs on that. But you should keep a weather eye out for new entrants into your business because new entrants means new thinking. They are uncluttered by the ideas of how this market works. And then they will move in and often move very quickly um, because that's what they have to do to survive. So keep an eye out for new entrants. And the last one is the power of substitutes. Now, in the last 15 years or so, we've seen this in spades. You know, we only have to refer to sites like Alibaba or Airbnb or Uber to understand the power of substitutes. Airbnb, which started as a couple of people renting out um, air-filled mattresses on in a spare room to students without accommodation. That's why it's called Airbnb, by the way. Has become the largest vendor of accommodation in the world, um, far bigger than any hotel chain. Uber has swept the boards. It's done enormous damage to the car rental agency, the casual car rental agencies, and a whole lot of other areas of business. And as they branch out into delivery services and food delivery, so they will do more damage. Alibaba, I'm not sure of the current status, was the biggest retailer in the world without having a single shop. If you have a look at places like Takealot, the same is true. Amazon is one of the biggest companies in the world now, one of the most powerful companies in the world, an online retailer of books. Who would have thought? So, substitutes, and it's not only at international level that this happens, it happens locally as well that someone comes up with an innovation and it just blows your whole production line out the window because that's not needed anymore. And if you look for trends in the industry, if you read the industry papers, you might get early warnings of substitutes that, apologies, that was a helicopter going over. You might get early warning of substitutes coming into your industry. And they're often small, they're often local, they're often very, very innovative. But they can wipe your business out as effectively as anything else. A shopping mall going up next door could be the end of your business. So look for threat of substitutes, look for new entrants, consider before you go into especially the big deals the power of the buyer and the power of the supplier, and then look at your direct competitors as well. And you will need, let me repeat again, if you want to stay relevant in a market and not simply rely on the inertia of your buyers. You need to continually innovate and you need to continually cut cost. We've moved past the world where every year you could go to your customers and say, well, you know, costs have increased, so we've managed to contain our costs down to the bare minimum and therefore we're only giving you a 5% increase. World doesn't work that way anymore. World expects you to have found ways to absorb that 5% continuously. So cost cut and innovate. And look at your competitors. That may be your salvation in the future. Jacques, I think I've said what I can on competitors here.
Yeah, it's to actually hear it again. You know, this Porter's five forces model, and to hear it, how you put it together, so practical. but it's a great framework for thinking through these things. And actually, many times where you started is where we have a bit of an arrogance to what we are doing, believing that actually our competitive edge that we had maybe many many years ago, we defined many years ago, and we believe it's still going to continue on the same track. And especially when you don't look around you and examine the threat of substitutes, you could still be stuck in a place. I mean, how many examples haven't you also brought it? I mean, I can only think practically is, and I also brought it up the last time. I'm like a stuck record. I need to come up with new examples. But just the video rental, services companies. Not noticing fast enough how the world has changed around them. You've used Uber and Alibaba and Airbnb as examples of substitutes, but these were major disruptors. But how many other disruptors don't come into your industry and challenges the current confidence that you have that you might still have an edge when you no longer have that edge? Um, and
Just
that
look
is
what
a
just look at what is happening to the camera industry today.
oh yeah, oh,
It's
oh it's
minute by comparison to what it was.
absolutely.
Because everyone's cell phone is a very, very capable video and still camera. And, even the cheapest cell phone takes very, very good digital pictures these days. And the camera industry is just, will probably move into a hobbyist or professional market only.
I mean, it's yeah, it's astounding how a cell phone has become so many different things.
Mm,
A video camera, as well
mm,
as a still camera, as well as a GPS, you know, amongst other things, and
yep.
so many devices captured into one. And when we go on hikes and so forth, or we visit the touristy places, it's now becoming by exception when you see somebody walking around, unless they're really professional and this is what they do. It's rare to find people walking with these big cameras around their
Mm,
necks.
mm,
Many more people are walking around with their cameras on their sticks.
mm, mm.
Yeah. No, just the taking a moment, looking up and assessing what's happening in your environment. I think that is really the message that I take from this, Ed. So thank you very much for sharing. So once again, just a reminder to our listeners, for those of you who are on Clubhouse with us, just remember you can go listen to the playback, but you can also get the edited version as a podcast on our YouTube channel, The Griffin Enterprise Development, and there you can go and subscribe so you get notifications when we do publish these videos on there. But thank you for listening, and once again, just a reminder: whatever you have gleaned today and listened to today, do something about it as long as it is today, and promise yourself you'll take the necessary action to grow your business, to keep growing your business, no matter what the circumstances are. Well, thank you, Ed. Until next week, then.
We look forward to chatting again next week, Jack.
We
Jacques.
chatting again, and thank you for those that have joined us for this event. Bye for now.